Hello and welcome. The year is 1358 Dale Reckoning, and something has gone terribly wrong in the heavens. You stand in the streets of Waterdeep, watching as reality itself begins to fracture. The sky tears open with colors that should not exist, and from those wounds in the fabric of existence, you witness something that mortals were never meant to see. Gods are falling to earth, not in glory, not in triumph, but cast down like criminals sentenced to walk among those they once commanded from on high. What you are about to experience is the most catastrophic event in the history of Faerûn, a crisis so profound that it reshaped the very nature of divinity itself. This is the story of the time of troubles, the Avatar crisis, and the night when divine power became mortal. Before we understand how the gods fell, you must first understand what they lost. In the heavens, in a realm beyond mortal comprehension, there existed artifacts of such fundamental importance that without them, the entire divine hierarchy would collapse. These were the tablets of fate, ancient stone tablets inscribed with the true names and domains of every god who held power over Toril. These tablets were not merely records or symbols. They were the very foundation of divine authority itself, kept in the celestial realm of Lord Io, the overgod who stood above all other deities. Lord Io was not a god to be worshipped, not a being who demanded temples or prayers. He was the cosmic force that maintained balance, the supreme authority who ensured that gods fulfilled their responsibilities to their worshippers and maintained their portfolios properly. The tablets of fate had existed since time immemorial, or at least since the gods themselves had been granted their dominions. Every deity, from the mightiest greater power to the humblest demigod, had their essence and authority bound to these tablets. To have your name inscribed upon the tablets of fate was to have cosmic legitimacy, to be recognized as a true deity with real divine power and responsibility. Without the tablets, the connection between worship and divine power would be severed, and gods would be reduced to little more than extremely powerful beings without their cosmic authority. And then, in a theft that would echo through the ages, the tablets of fate were stolen. The circumstances of this theft remain shrouded in divine mystery, known fully only to those who perpetrated it. What you need to understand is that two deities, driven by ambition and discontent with their positions in the divine hierarchy, conspired to steal these tablets from Lord Io himself, Bane, the Black Lord of tyranny and domination, and Miakul, the Lord of Bones who ruled over death and decay, orchestrated this cosmic crime. Their motivations were complex, woven from threads of ambition, fear of obsolescence, and a desire to reshape the divine order according to their own visions of power. Bane had long sought to expand his influence, to move from being a god of tyranny to becoming the supreme deity of control and domination over all Faerûn. He saw the tablets of fate not as sacred trust, but as tools that could be manipulated, altered, or even rewritten to elevate certain gods while diminishing others. Miakul, ever the schemer who dealt in death and feared his own potential irrelevance, saw an opportunity to secure his position permanently in any new divine order that might emerge. Together, these two gods committed an act of cosmic treason that would trigger the most devastating period in mortal history. When Lord Io discovered the theft, his response was immediate and absolute. The overgod cared nothing for the politics of lesser deities, their ambitions, or their schemes. What he cared about was the fundamental order of the cosmos and the proper functioning of the divine hierarchy. The theft of the tablets of fate was not merely a crime against property. It was a violation of the cosmic order itself, a breaking of the fundamental rules that governed how gods and mortals interacted. And Lord Io's judgment was severe beyond comprehension. Every deity, whether guilty or innocent, whether involved in the theft or completely unaware of it, was cast down from the heavens. This was not a punishment aimed solely at the guilty. This was a cosmic reckoning, a divine crisis that Lord Io imposed upon all the gods because they had collectively failed in their responsibilities. They had grown complacent, distant from their worshippers, more concerned with their own power struggles than with the proper maintenance of their portfolios. The theft was merely the symptom of a deeper disease in the divine hierarchy, and Lord Io's cure was radical surgery. On that day, which would come to be remembered simply as the arrival, you watch from the streets as gods manifest across Faerûn in physical form. These are not the distant, ethereal presences mortals were accustomed to experiencing through prayer and divine magic. These are tangible, visible, vulnerable avatars walking the same earth as common farmers and merchants. The gods have been transformed from cosmic powers into incarnate beings, stripped of much of their divine might, but still possessing power far beyond mortal ken. The decree from Lord Io was clear and unyielding. The gods would remain in avatar form, bound to the mortal plane, until the tablets of fate were recovered and returned to their proper place. Until that time, they would be subject to mortal limitations. They could be wounded. They could bleed. They could, most terrifyingly of all, die true deaths that would extinguish their divine essence forever. The rules that had protected gods from permanent destruction were suspended. If an avatar died during the time of troubles, that god would cease to exist, their portfolio scattered among the survivors, or claimed by ambitious successors. You feel the immediate effects of this divine catastrophe rippling through reality itself. Magic becomes unstable, wild, unpredictable. Spells that should function reliably instead produce random effects or fail entirely. This is because divine magic, which constitutes a significant portion of all magical power in Faerûn, flows directly from the gods to their clerics and priests. With the gods cut off from their celestial domains and forced into avatar form, This connection becomes strained, fractured, unreliable. Clerics wake to find their prayers unanswered or answered in unexpected ways. The very fabric of the weave, the structure through which magical energy flows, trembles and tears under the strain of divine displacement. The panic spreads faster than wildfire through every city, town, and hamlet across the continent. You see priests emerging from temples with expressions of horror and confusion, having received visions and messages from their deities that make no sense within the old understanding of divine power. Some gods appear directly to their most faithful followers, manifesting in avatar form to explain the crisis, to demand aid, or simply to seek shelter and protection in a world that has suddenly become dangerous, even to them. Other deities, too proud or too fearful to reveal themselves, hide among mortal populations, concealing their true nature while they search for the stolen tablets. The social order begins to fracture immediately. You witness temples thrown into chaos as clerics debate whether the beings claiming to be their gods are truly divine or merely powerful imposters. In cities like Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate, and Suzil, governments struggle to maintain order as citizens panic at the sight of divine avatars walking their streets. Some mortals see this as an opportunity, a chance to interact directly with the gods they have worshipped all their lives. Others see it as a sign of the end times, a cosmic apocalypse that will consume all creation. Military forces mobilize across the continent, not knowing whether to protect these divine avatars or to defend against them. Because not all gods are benevolent, and not all divine avatars come in peace. Deities like Bane, Talos the Destroyer, and Loviatar the Maiden of Pain see the avatar crisis as an opportunity to wage war directly, to conquer territories and expand their influence by force. While the cosmic order is in chaos, you watch as armies march under divine banners, led by gods who have traded celestial thrones for mortal battlefields. The first deaths come quickly. Lesser gods, demigods, and heroes who had achieved quasi-divine status find themselves vulnerable in ways they never were before. When an avatar falls in battle during the time of troubles, there is no resurrection, no divine intervention, no return from the afterlife. Death becomes final and absolute even for beings who were once immortal. The stakes are higher than they have ever been in the history of Faerûn, and every god knows that survival requires not just power, but cunning, alliances, and desperate measures. You begin to hear stories of divine encounters across the realms. In the city of Gentle Keep, Bane manifests in his full avatar form, a towering figure of black armor and malevolent power, seeking to consolidate his earthly power base while searching for the tablets he himself helped steal. In the forests of Cormenther, Sylvanus the Oak Father walks among the trees, weakened, but still commanding the respect of druids who have served him for generations. In the frozen north, Auril the Frost Maiden brings winter's fury in physical form, her avatar spreading supernatural cold wherever she treads. The search for the tablets of fate becomes the single most important quest in all of Faerûn. Every deity knows that the tablets must be found and returned to Lord Io if the cosmic order is to be restored. But the tablets have been hidden cunningly, perhaps even separated and concealed in different locations across the vast continent. Bane and Miakul, the architects of this crisis, search frantically to secure the tablets for themselves, hoping to use them to bargain with Lord Io, or perhaps to alter them before their return. Other gods form alliances, sending their mortal followers on quests to locate these cosmic artifacts, while the deities themselves move carefully through a world suddenly full of danger. And you, whether commoner or adventurer, priest or warrior, find yourself living in a time when the impossible has become reality. The gods walk among mortals, and the fate of all creation hangs in the balance. This is not a myth or a legend told in temple services. This is happening now, in the year 1358 Dale Reckoning, and no one knows how it will end. The only certainty is that Faerûn will never be the same again, that the relationship between gods and mortals has been fundamentally altered in ways that will echo through centuries to come. The Avatar crisis has begun, and you are living through the opening chapter of the most terrifying and transformative period in all recorded history. Section 2. Chaos unleashed across Faerûn. The morning after the gods fell, you wake to discover that reality itself has become unreliable. The sun rises in the east as it always has, but its light feels wrong, filtered through a sky that seems to shimmer and warp, as though seen through imperfect glass. This is your first experience with what scholars will later call the wild magic surges. Unpredictable storms of raw magical energy that sweep across Faerûn in waves, transforming the predictable art of spellcasting into something chaotic and dangerous. You watch as a village wizard attempts to cast a simple light spell, a cantrip that apprentices master in their first weeks of training. Instead of producing a gentle glow, the spell explodes outward in a cascade of colors that solidify into floating crystalline structures, hanging in the air like impossible sculptures before slowly dissolving into nothingness. The wizard stands trembling, staring at his hands with an expression of horror and confusion. This is happening to every spellcaster across the continent, from the most powerful archmages in their towers to hedge wizards practicing simple tricks in rural farmhouses. The cause of this magical instability becomes clear as you understand more about the nature of divine power in Faerûn. The weave, that invisible network of magical energy that permeates all reality, is maintained and stabilized by Mystra, the goddess of magic herself. But Mystra, like all other deities, has been cast down in avatar form, forced to walk the mortal plane while severed from her cosmic responsibilities. Without her constant attention and divine oversight, the weave becomes unstable, developing tears and knots, regions where magic flows too freely or not at all. You experience these wild, magic zones firsthand as you travel between settlements. In one area, magic functions normally, or close enough to normal that experienced casters can adapt. Then you cross an invisible boundary, and suddenly, the very air crackles with barely contained power. Spells cast here become amplified, twisted, or completely transformed. A healing spell might instead cause plants to sprout from the subject's skin. A fireball might freeze instead of burn, or turn into a swarm of flaming butterflies that drift away on impossible winds. The unpredictability makes travel dangerous, forces armies to reconsider their reliance on battle magic, and causes many wizards to simply abandon spellcasting altogether until the crisis resolves. Clerics suffer even more than arcane casters. You visit a temple of Torm, the god of duty and loyalty, and find the priests in a state of near panic. Their morning prayers, usually answered with a warm sense of divine presence and the renewal of their spell-granting abilities, produced only silence. Then, hours later, the spells came flooding in all at once, accompanied by a vision of Torm himself, bloodied and exhausted, fighting battles somewhere in the mortal realm. The connection between deity and worshipper has become erratic, dependent not on the strength of faith, but on the physical condition and proximity of the god's avatar. This creates a theological crisis that shakes the foundations of organized religion. For thousands of years, the faithful have been taught that gods are omnipresent within their domains, capable of hearing prayers from anywhere in the world, able to grant divine magic to their priests regardless of distance or circumstance. Now, suddenly, clerics discover that their powers fluctuate based on how far they are from their deity's avatar. A priest of Lathander in Waterdeep might find his connection strong one day because Lathander's avatar walks nearby. Then wake the next morning powerless because the Morning Lord has traveled east toward Cormor. You witness the practical implications of this throughout the realms. Temples that once served as reliable sources of healing magic become uncertain. Their ability to cure disease or mend wounds dependent on factors beyond mortal control. Armies that relied on clerical support find themselves marching without the blessing of their war gods, facing battles without divine healing or protective prayers. Rural communities that depended on druids and nature priests to ensure good harvests watch in horror as their spiritual leaders lose connection to the natural divine powers that sustain the land. The search for the tablets of fate intensifies as gods realize that Lord Io will not relent, will not restore them to their celestial domains until the tablets are recovered and the cosmic order restored. You hear rumors of divine avatars moving across the landscape, each following their own theories about where Bane and Miakul might have hidden these artifacts. Some gods work openly, appearing before their followers to organize searches and offer rewards for information. Others operate in secret, disguising themselves as mortals while they pursue their own investigations. In the city of Waterdeep, you witness an unprecedented gathering of divine power as several gods converge on the City of Splendors, each believing that the cosmopolitan metropolis might hold clues to the tablet's location. Mystra arrives seeking answers, her avatar taking the form of a dark-haired woman of extraordinary beauty and barely contained magical power. She seeks not only the tablets, but also access to Waterdeep's extensive libraries and magical repositories, hoping to find some way to stabilize the weave, or at least understand the nature of Lord Io's decree. The open Lord of Waterdeep, caught in an impossible political situation, must negotiate with beings who were once the objects of worship, but are now visitors in his city, subject to mortal laws, yet possessing power that could level buildings with a gesture. You watch as guards, trained to maintain order and enforce justice, stand nervously at a distance from divine avatars who could destroy them without effort. The social contract that governs mortal civilization strains under the weight of divine presence. Temple politics become deadly during this period. You observe power struggles within religious hierarchies as different factions of priests claim authority to speak for their avatar deities. In some cases, gods directly intervene in these disputes, appearing before their faithful to clarify their will. In others, ambitious clerics claim false divine mandates, using the confusion of the avatar crisis to advance their own positions. Heresy and orthodoxy become dangerously blurred concepts when the gods themselves walk among mortals, and may be encountered in taverns or on street corners. The economic impact of the crisis spreads like a plague across Faerûn. Trade routes collapse as merchants refuse to travel through areas reported to have wild magic zones or divine battles. You see markets in major cities where prices fluctuate wildly as supplies dwindle and demand surges. Food becomes scarce in urban centers that depend on magical preservation and transport. Gold itself becomes less valuable than practical goods, like weapons, armor, and supplies that might help ordinary people survive in a world gone mad. You encounter refugees on every road, families fleeing regions where divine conflicts have turned the landscape into war zones. In the Dales, where Bane's avatar has established a temporary power base, entire villages are emptied as citizens flee the Black Lord's tyranny. The avatar of Bane, diminished from his full cosmic might, but still terrifyingly powerful, seeks to consolidate earthly power while searching for the tablets. His mortal followers, the Gentarim and other evil organizations, see this as an opportunity to expand their influence under the direct command of their dark god. In Tantras, the port city on the Dragon Reach, you witness a completely different response to divine presence. Here, the god Torm has chosen to make his stand, manifesting his avatar openly and declaring the city under his divine protection. Unlike Bane, who rules through fear, Torm works with the mortal government, establishing a partnership between divine power and mortal law. The citizens of Tantras find themselves uniquely blessed during the time of troubles, living in a city where a god of duty and protection walks their streets, guards their walls, and maintains order through righteous authority rather than tyrannical oppression. But not every divine manifestation brings clarity or comfort. You hear tales from the Moonshees of Talos the Destroyer, whose avatar rages across the islands in physical form, bringing storms and devastation simply because destruction is his nature. The Storm Lord cares nothing for the tablets of fate, shows no interest in cooperating with other deities to resolve the crisis. Instead, he revels in the opportunity to bring ruin directly, to prove that chaos and destruction are more fundamental than order. In the forests and wild places, the druidic circles struggle with their own crisis of faith. Many druids worship, or at least respect, Sylvanus, Miliki, and other nature deities who have been cast down in avatar form. You journey into the high forest and find druids gathered in sacred groves, debating whether they should seek out their gods, or whether the deity's descent to mortal form represents a fundamental failure that invalidates their claims to worship. Some druids abandon organized religion entirely during this period, turning instead to a more primal connection with nature itself, independent of divine intermediaries. The impact on arcane magic users creates its own set of problems. Wizards who spent decades mastering the predictable manipulation of the weave find their life's work rendered nearly useless by wild magic. You visit Candlekeep, the great library fortress, and find the scholars there working desperately to document and understand the patterns of magical instability. Some believe the fluctuations follow predictable cycles that can be mapped and anticipated. Others argue that the chaos is truly random, immune to mortal understanding, because it stems from divine disruption at the highest cosmic level. Sorcerers, those who channel innate magical power rather than studying the weave structure, fare somewhat better than traditional wizards. Their connection to magic is more intuitive, less dependent on the structured framework that has been disrupted. You encounter sorcerers who claim they can feel the wild magic flowing through them, can sometimes predict or even ride the surges of chaotic energy. This leads to a temporary elevation of sorcerer status in some regions, with rulers and wealthy patrons seeking their services when traditional wizardry becomes too unreliable. The churches mobilize their resources, organizing quests and expeditions to search for the tablets of fate. You see temple hierarchies commissioning adventuring companies, promising rich rewards and divine favor to anyone who can locate the cosmic artifacts. Some of these quests are sincere, organized by priests who genuinely want to restore the proper cosmic order. Others are schemes by ambitious clerics who hope to claim the tablets for themselves or their particular deity, seeing an opportunity to reshape the divine hierarchy. In the Underdark, the vast network of caverns and tunnels beneath Faerûn's surface, the Drow elves face their own divine crisis. Lolt, the Spider Queen who rules over Drow society with absolute authority, has been cast down like all other deities. You hear whispers of chaos in the Drow cities, of houses warring openly as they realize their goddess cannot immediately punish betrayal or reward loyalty. The rigid hierarchy of Drow culture, maintained through constant fear of divine retribution, begins to crack under the weight of Lolt's absence from her cosmic throne. On the surface, other civilizations adapt in different ways. The elves of Evermeet, with their long memories and deep connection to their Seldarine pantheon, respond with a patience born of experience. Elven culture has weathered divine crises before, though none quite like this. You visit elven communities where priests continue their rituals with quiet faith, trusting that the cosmic order will eventually reassert itself, because it always has. Their thousand-year perspectives give them patience that shorter-lived races struggle to maintain. The Dwarven holds present a different picture entirely. Dwarven gods, particularly Moradin the Allfather, have always been seen as especially steadfast and reliable. The news that even Moradin has been cast down in avatar form shakes Dwarven society profoundly. You descend into the halls beneath the mountains and find Dwarven priests struggling to maintain traditional ceremonies, while their connection to divine power fluctuates unpredictably. Some Dwarven clans interpret the Avatar crisis as a test, a trial sent by the gods to prove the strength of Dwarven faith and fortitude. Across the sea of fallen stars, the island nations respond with a mixture of fear and opportunism. Pirates and coastal raiders, many of whom worship Umberlee, the Queen of the Depths, find themselves without reliable divine guidance in their seafaring ventures. The goddess of the ocean, reduced to avatar form and trapped on land somewhere in Faerûn, cannot answer the prayers of sailors facing storms or guide ships through treacherous waters. Naval power, long dependent on clerical, whether magic and divine protection, becomes suddenly uncertain. You witness the rise of false prophets and charlatans during this period, mortals who claim special knowledge of the gods, or who impersonate divine avatars to gain power and wealth. In smaller settlements without access to true divine magic or learned priests, these frauds sometimes succeed in establishing cults and gathering followers. Some are eventually exposed when real gods or their true representatives arrive. Others continue their deceptions, adding layers of confusion to an already chaotic situation. The psychological toll on common people cannot be overstated. You speak with farmers, merchants, craftspeople, ordinary citizens who suddenly face a world where the fundamental rules have changed. Prayer no longer guarantees divine attention. Magic cannot be relied upon for even simple tasks. The gods themselves walk among mortals, vulnerable and desperate, engaged in conflicts that destroy homes and livelihoods as collateral damage. Many people simply try to continue their normal lives, hoping that if they keep working, keep following old routines, the crisis will resolve itself and normalcy will return. But normalcy feels increasingly distant as weeks turn into months, and the avatar crisis continues without resolution. The tablets remain hidden, the gods remain earthbound, and the suffering of mortal populations intensifies with each passing day. Section 3. Blood of the Gods. The first true death comes in the city of Tantras, and when it happens, you feel it ripple through reality itself. This is not the temporary destruction of an avatar or the banishment of a divine manifestation. This is the complete and utter annihilation of a god's essence, the permanent erasure of a cosmic power that has existed for millennia. Bane, the Black Lord of tyranny and domination, one of the architects of the crisis that cast all gods down to mortal form, dies in the streets of a mortal city during a confrontation with Torm, the god of duty and loyalty. You witness the events that lead to this cosmic confrontation. Bane's avatar, having consolidated power in Gentle Keep and surrounding regions, marches on Tantras with an army of followers, Gentarim agents, and mercenaries, drawn to the promise of conquest under a god's direct command. The Black Lord seeks to claim Tantras as his earthly seat of power, to establish dominion over the Dragon Reach, and use the city's strategic position to control trade and military movements across eastern Faerûn. But Torm has made Tantras his stronghold, has declared the city under divine protection, and will not surrender it without a fight that shakes the foundations of the world. The Battle of Tantras begins as Bane's forces lay siege to the city walls. You stand watching as two gods clash in physical combat, something mortals were never meant to witness. This is not the abstract warfare of divine beings hurling cosmic forces at each other from celestial realms. This is brutal, visceral, mortal combat between avatars who can bleed, who can tire, who can die. Bane manifests as a towering figure of black armor and malevolent power, wielding weapons forged from pure tyranny given form. Torm appears as a warrior of perfect duty and righteous purpose, his armor gleaming with divine light, his weapons blessed by cosmic law itself. The battle rages through the streets of Tantras, and every blow that lands creates shockwaves that shatter stone and send mortals fleeing for shelter. You see buildings collapse under the force of divine strikes. Watch as ordinary soldiers who get too close are caught in the radiant energy of gods in combat. The sky itself darkens, clouds gathering in unnatural patterns, as if reality cannot quite process what is happening below. This is wrong on a fundamental level. Gods were never meant to fight like this, to bleed and struggle and face true mortality. When the final confrontation comes, both gods pour everything they have into destroying each other. Torm, embodying absolute duty and sacrifice, chooses to stop Bane at any cost, even if that cost is his own existence. In an explosion of divine power that levels portions of Tantras, both avatars are destroyed. You feel the dual shockwave of their deaths tear through your mind, the death cries of two gods simultaneously, the sensation of cosmic powers unraveling and dissipating into nothing. Both Bane and Torm fall, their avatars disintegrating, breaking apart into ash and light that swirls in impossible patterns before vanishing completely. The immediate aftermath is chaos and confusion. Bane's army, having watched their god die, breaks and runs. Some commit suicide rather than face a world without their dark master. Others flee into the wilderness, becoming bandits or seeking new powers to serve. The Zhentarim organization, built on worship and fear of Bane, fractures into competing factions as different leaders claim authority in the Black Lord's absence. But the followers of Torm also mourn, having lost their righteous god in the same battle that destroyed the tyrant. Yet death during the time of troubles proves stranger than anyone anticipated. You soon hear reports that Torm has been restored, raised from death by Lord Io himself as recognition of his sacrifice in defense of duty and mortal lives. This act suggests that the Overgod watches the crisis more closely than the gods realized. That righteous action and proper fulfillment of divine portfolios might earn favor even in these desperate times. Bane, however, remains dead, his essence scattered, his tyrannical reign ended. But Bane's death is not the only divine destruction to shake Faerûn. You soon hear news from Waterdeep that strikes even deeper fear into the hearts of spellcasters across the realm. Mystra, the goddess of magic herself, has been destroyed. The circumstances of her death involve Helm, the god of guardians who stands eternal watch at the celestial stairway, the pathway between the mortal plane and the divine realms. Helm's duty, assigned by Lord Io himself, is to prevent any avatared god from returning to the planes until the tablets of fate are recovered. Mystra, desperate to restore stability to the weave, and believing her role as goddess of magic makes her essential enough to warrant exception, attempts to bypass Helm's guard and force her way back to her divine domain. Helm, bound by his nature and his absolute duty, cannot allow any god to pass regardless of reason or justification. He is the ultimate guardian, the watcher who never sleeps, and his duty is absolute even when it conflicts with sympathy or cosmic necessity. When Mystra tries to push past him, Helm strikes her down, destroying her avatar, and in the process, killing the goddess of magic herself. The moment of her death sends a catastrophic shockwave through the weave, tearing massive holes in the magical fabric of reality and triggering wild magic storms of unprecedented intensity. You experience the magical chaos that follows Mystra's death firsthand. Entire regions become dead magic zones where no spells function at all, where even the simplest cantrip fails completely. Other areas transform into wild magic zones, so intense that merely speaking certain words or making particular gestures can trigger unpredictable magical effects. Wizards across Faerûn find themselves powerless or dangerously unpredictable. Some go mad, unable to cope with the loss of abilities they spent lifetimes developing. Others adapt, learning to work around the damaged weave or finding alternative sources of power. The death of the goddess of magic represents a wound to reality itself, and the question becomes whether the weave can survive without divine oversight, or if magic itself might cease to exist. The death of two major deities and the resurrection of one sends a clear message to all the avatared gods. This is not a temporary inconvenience or a cosmic game. This is a genuine crisis where immortals can face permanent extinction. Though Lord Io's judgment appears to extend beyond simple survival, rewarding virtue and punishing failure, the desperation of the divine search for the tablets of fate intensifies. Gods who previously pursued individual agendas begin forming alliances, recognizing that cooperation might be necessary for survival. Others, particularly the evil-aligned deities, see opportunity in the chaos, hoping to claim the portfolios and power of destroyed gods. Into this maelstrom of divine death and cosmic chaos step four mortals whose names will become legend: Midnight, Kelimver, Cyric, and Adon. You first encounter news of these heroes in tavern tales and traveler stories, accounts of ordinary people who somehow became entangled in the quest for the tablets of fate. Midnight, a young magic user from Deepingdale, finds herself chosen by the dying Mystra to carry a portion of the goddess's divine essence, to hold and protect it until the crisis can be resolved. This transformation is not elevation to immediate godhood, but rather a dangerous burden, making Midnight a target for any deity or mortal ambitious enough to steal divine power. Kelimver Lionsbane, a warrior cursed by his family's dark heritage, travels with Midnight initially as a hired mercenary, but soon becomes more deeply involved through growing affection and shared destiny. His curse, which transforms him into a bestial panther-like creature when he performs acts of kindness without payment, creates a bitter irony. During the time of troubles, when heroism is most needed, Kelimver struggles with his own nature, fighting against a curse that punishes goodness. Yet he perseveres, protecting Midnight and her divine burden through countless dangers, gradually learning that true selflessness might be the key to breaking his family's dark legacy. Cyric, a thief and assassin from Gentle Keep, joins the group through circumstances that blend survival instinct, opportunism, and genuine talent for combat and deception. You hear conflicting reports about Cyric's true nature. Some accounts paint him as a charming rogue who proves capable in crisis. Others suggest darker motivations from the beginning, ambitions that extend far beyond mere survival or companionship. What becomes clear as events unfold is that Cyric possesses a hunger for power that will have profound consequences for the future of Faerûn's divine hierarchy. Adon, a priest of Faerûn Firehair, the goddess of beauty and love, completes this quartet of mortal heroes. Adon's crisis is deeply personal and theological. During the early days of the Avatar crisis, he witnesses events that shatter his faith, including a traumatic encounter that leaves him physically and spiritually scarred. The wound he receives across his face becomes a symbol of his broken faith, a constant reminder that divine beauty and perfection are illusions. He must wrestle with deeper questions about the nature of faith, the reality of gods, and the value of religious devotion when divinity itself proves flawed and mortal. These four mortals find themselves drawn into the search for the tablets of fate through a series of events that blur the line between destiny and chance. They encounter gods in avatar form, witness divine deaths, survive magical catastrophes, and gradually piece together clues about where Bane and Miakul hid the stolen tablets. Their journey takes them across Faerûn, through wild magic zones and areas devastated by divine conflicts. Always pursued by enemies, both mortal and divine, who want either the tablets themselves or the divine essence that midnight carries. In the city of Baldur's Gate, you hear reports of their presence, of confrontations with agents of the dead Bane's fractured church, and with opportunistic wizards seeking to capture Midnight for her divine power. The group fights through ambushes and assassination attempts, learning to trust each other in ways that transcend their initially disparate motivations. Midnight grows into her role as bearer of Mystra's essence, learning to channel limited divine power without being consumed by it. Kelimver confronts his curse and discovers that genuine, selfless love might be the path to freedom. Adon rebuilds his faith on new foundations, learning that true devotion lies not in worshiping perfect beings, but in serving ideals of beauty and love, regardless of divine favor. And Cyric reveals himself as increasingly complex, his ambitions expanding with each victory, his methods becoming more ruthless. He acquires a sword called Godsbane, a weapon of mysterious origin that seems to hunger for divine essence, that grows more powerful with each god or divine servant it destroys. This weapon will play a crucial role in the deaths of gods yet to fall. The death of Baal, god of murder, comes during this period through Cyric's hand. The Lord of Murder's avatar is tracked down and confronted, and in the battle that follows, Cyric wields Godsbane with deadly precision. When the blade pierces Baal's avatar, you feel the death of another god ripple through the world. But Baal's death is different from Bane's or Mystra's. The Lord of Murder, in his descent to avatar form, had sired numerous offspring across Faerûn, children who carried fragments of his divine essence in their blood. When Baal's avatar dies, his essence does not dissipate entirely, but fractures, spreading among his surviving children as a dark inheritance that will have consequences extending far beyond the time of troubles. You feel the impact of Baal's death in the sudden reduction of murder-related supernatural phenomena. Assassins who drew power from Baal's portfolio find their abilities weakened or gone. Temples dedicated to the Lord of Murder fall silent, their priests either scattering or attempting to find new divine patrons. The complex web of assassination guilds and murder cults that Baal maintained begins to collapse, though some factions persist, claiming to serve the memory of their dead god, or hoping for his eventual return through one of his divine children. Miakul, the other architect of the cosmic theft alongside Bane, faces his own reckoning. The Lord of Bones, god of death and decay, has been pursuing his own agenda throughout the Avatar crisis, searching for the tablets while trying to maintain his divine portfolio and avoid the fate that befell his co-conspirator. Based on accounts from survivors and the evidence left behind, Miakul's avatar is eventually confronted by the mortal heroes, who, by this point, have become something more than ordinary adventurers, transformed by their experiences and the divine power some of them now carry. The confrontation with Miakul represents one of the crisis's pivotal moments. You hear that the battle takes place in Waterdeep, in the depths beneath the city, where death and darkness hold ancient power. The weapons the heroes carry by this point are more than mundane steel. Midnight channels Mystra's essence, wielding magic that transcends mortal limitations despite the damaged state of the weave. Kelemver fights with strength born of a curse, finally broken through selfless acts. Adon brings renewed divine favor from his reconstructed faith. And Cyric, armed with Godsbane, a weapon that has now drunk the essence of at least one god, strikes with precision and deadly intent. When Miakul falls to Cyric's blade, his death is less spectacular than Bane's, but no less final. The god of death experiences true death, the ultimate irony for one who ruled over mortality's end. His divine essence fractures and scatters, with portions being claimed by those present at his destruction, particularly by Cyric, whose weapon seems designed to absorb and channel divine power. The recovery of the Tablets of Fate happens through the hero's efforts, though the exact sequence of events varies depending on which account you hear. What seems clear is that both tablets are eventually located and secured. One tablet, based on the most reliable reports, was recovered from Bane's hidden cache after his death in Tantras. The other was found in a location that Miakul had concealed, possibly discovered during or after the confrontation that ended his existence. The moment the tablets come into mortal hands, carried by Midnight and her companions, the nature of the crisis shifts fundamentally. No longer is this simply about gods searching blindly for stolen artifacts. Now, it becomes a race to return the tablets to Lord Io before they can be stolen again or used for purposes other than restoration of cosmic order. The journey to return the tablets becomes its own ordeal. As you hear of battles against remaining avatared gods who want to intercept them, who hope to bargain with Lord Io, or perhaps alter the tablets before their return. The regional devastation caused by divine conflicts during this period leaves scars across Faerûn that will take generations to heal. Entire valleys are rendered uninhabitable by wild magic effects, or the residual energy from divine battles. Cities lie in ruins, their populations scattered or dead. Trade routes remain disrupted as merchants fear to travel through regions where reality itself proved unreliable. The economic and social structures that maintained civilization before the Avatar crisis are fundamentally damaged, requiring extensive rebuilding and reorganization. Throughout all this chaos and death, a more profound transformation is occurring. The divine essence scattered by the deaths of gods does not simply vanish into nothing. It must go somewhere, must be claimed by someone, or something capable of containing and channeling such power. Mortals who perform great deeds during the Avatar crisis, who demonstrate exceptional power, or will, or faith, find themselves drawing in fragments of this loose divine power. Some are consumed by it, unable to contain the cosmic energy. Others adapt, beginning transformations that will elevate them beyond mortality. Midnight, already carrying Mystra's essence, becomes the primary candidate for inheriting the dead goddess's portfolio. The magic she wields grows stronger, more instinctive, as the divine power within her recognizes that she possesses both the capability and the character necessary to manage the weave. Cyric, having claimed power from Baal through Godsbane, and possibly from Miakul as well, begins his own transformation toward divinity, though the nature of his future godhood is being shaped by ambition and ruthlessness as much as by genuine achievement. Kelemver finds himself drawn toward the empty portfolio of death, his experiences with mortality, with breaking his curse through selfless love, and with witnessing gods die, making him strangely suited to become a god of the dead. Though his compassionate nature would reshape that portfolio in revolutionary ways, the pull of cosmic necessity begins working on him, preparing him for a destiny he never sought. The struggle for divine essence during the final phases of the Avatar crisis is not merely about power or immortality. It is about cosmic responsibility, about who will hold the portfolios that maintain reality's fundamental functions. Death needs a deity to manage it properly. Magic requires divine oversight to maintain the weave. The natural cycles of the world depend on gods who properly fulfill their responsibilities, rather than neglecting them for political maneuvering or personal ambition. As the tablets near their return to Lord Io, As the Avatar crisis approaches its climax, you watch a world transformed by death and chaos, beginning to glimpse the shape of what comes next. The old divine order is broken beyond repair. New gods will rise. New arrangements of cosmic power will emerge, and the relationship between mortals and divinity has been forever altered by witnessing gods bleed and die on mortal soil. Section 4. The Final Confrontation. The journey to return the Tablets of Fate to Lord Io becomes a pilgrimage through a shattered world. You follow the path of Midnight and her companions as they carry these cosmic artifacts across Faerûn. And everywhere they travel, reality seems to hold its breath, waiting to see if the crisis will truly end, or if some new catastrophe will prevent restoration of the divine order. The tablets themselves are not mere stone carved with divine names. They are nexus points of cosmic power, artifacts so fundamentally important to the structure of reality that their very presence warps the world around them. You witness the effects of the tablets' passage through regions still suffering from wild magic and divine conflict. Where Midnight carries Mystra's essence and the tablets together, the weave temporarily stabilizes, magic becoming predictable again in a bubble of normality that follows the heroes like a wake behind a ship. Spellcasters who have abandoned their art for weeks suddenly find they can cast reliably when near the tablets. Clerics whose prayers went unanswered discover renewed connection to their gods. This gives you hope that perhaps restoration is truly possible, that the cosmic order can be repaired. But not everyone wants the tablets returned. You see evidence of the opposition gathering against the heroes, forces both divine and mortal, who believe the Avatar crisis presents opportunities that should not be surrendered. Some evil deities, having adapted to their avatared existence and carved out earthly power bases, fear what judgment Lord Io might pass when the tablets are restored. Others, more ambitious, hope to intercept the tablets and use them to bargain for elevated status in whatever new divine hierarchy emerges. The relationship between the four heroes fractures under the weight of their experiences and the growing power some of them now wield. Midnight, burdened by Mystra's divine essence and the responsibility of carrying the tablets, grows more isolated, struggling to maintain her mortal identity, while cosmic power tries to reshape her into something else entirely. Kelemver, having broken his family curse through genuine selfless acts during the crisis, finds himself changed in fundamental ways. Though the full implications of his transformation remain unclear, Adon, his faith rebuilt on foundations of hard-won wisdom rather than naive devotion, serves as the group's moral center, though his influence over Cyric diminishes with each passing day. Cyric reveals his true nature during this final phase of the crisis. You hear reports from those who witnessed his actions, accounts that paint him as increasingly ruthless and power-hungry. The charming rogue, who initially joined Midnight's quest for survival and companionship, transforms into something darker, consumed by ambition and the intoxicating taste of divine power he has stolen from fallen gods. He wields Godsbane, the sword that has drunk the essence of deities, a weapon that grants him strength beyond mortal limits, while slowly corrupting whatever humanity he once possessed. The tension between Cyric and his former companions reaches a breaking point. You learn of a confrontation, a betrayal that shatters whatever remained of their fellowship. Cyric, driven by his hunger for power, and perhaps influenced by the dark whispers of Godsbane itself, turns on his companions. The exact details vary between accounts, but what emerges clearly is that Cyric kills Kelimver, striking down the warrior who had become his friend and rival. This murder, committed with a weapon that has already slain gods, has consequences that extend beyond simple death, creating a connection between Cyric and Kelimver that will shape both their destinies. Despite this betrayal, despite the losses and suffering, Midnight and the surviving heroes complete their quest. They bring the tablets of fate to the place where Lord Io can receive them, initiating the final phase of the cosmic crisis. The process is not simple, not a matter of merely presenting the artifacts and waiting for divine approval. Lord Io's judgment will extend beyond simply receiving the stolen property. The Overgod will evaluate how each deity conducted themselves during the Avatar crisis, whether they fulfilled their responsibilities to their worshippers, whether they demonstrated the qualities necessary to hold cosmic portfolios. You feel the tension building across Faerûn as the moment of judgment approaches. Priests in every temple pray that their gods will be restored to full power, that the chaos and suffering of the Avatar crisis will end. Mortal rulers who have struggled to maintain order during months of divine chaos hope desperately for return to normalcy. Common people, exhausted by fear and uncertainty, simply want the world to make sense again, for magic to work predictably, and for gods to return to their proper places in the heavens. The actual moment of the tablet's return transcends mortal perception in many ways. You experience it not as a witnessed event, but as a cosmic shift, a fundamental change in the nature of reality that every living being feels simultaneously. The wild magic storms cease instantly across the entire continent. The weave, damaged and torn by Mystra's death and months of instability, begins to heal and restructure itself under new divine guidance. Clerics everywhere feel their divine connections strengthen and clarify. No longer dependent on proximity to avatared gods, but restored to the reliable cosmic link they knew before the crisis. But Lord Io's judgment is neither simple restoration nor merciful forgiveness. The Overgod evaluates each deity's conduct during the Avatar crisis with absolute objectivity, unclouded by sympathy or tradition. Some gods are restored to their full cosmic power and returned to their celestial domains, having demonstrated proper stewardship of their portfolios and appropriate care for their mortal worshippers. Torm, who sacrificed himself to stop Bane, receives particular favor, restored to life and divinity as recognition of his righteous conduct. Others face punishment, their divine rank reduced or their portfolios diminished as consequences for failures during the crisis. Several deities do not survive Lord Io's judgment. Those gods who died during the Avatar crisis and did not demonstrate sufficient virtue to warrant resurrection remain dead, their portfolios permanently removed from them and made available for redistribution. Bane will not return, though his portfolio of tyranny and strife remains as a cosmic necessity that must be filled. Baal and Miakal likewise remain dead, their cosmic positions left empty or claimed by successors. This creates unprecedented opportunities for ascension, for mortal heroes who distinguished themselves during the crisis to rise and claim divine portfolios that require management. Midnight's transformation into the new Mystra happens as part of Lord Io's judgment and the restoration of cosmic order. The divine essence she has carried throughout the crisis, the power and responsibility of being goddess of magic, can no longer remain with a mortal. You learn through temple teachings and scholarly accounts that Midnight attempted to refuse, tried to return Mystra's essence to the cosmic structure without claiming it for herself. But Lord Io's decree is absolute. The weave requires a goddess, magic needs divine oversight. And Midnight has proven herself worthy through her conduct during the Avatar crisis. Her ascension is not reward, but necessity, cosmic promotion, because someone must fulfill these responsibilities. And she has demonstrated both capability and proper character. The woman named Midnight ceases to exist in mortal form. The goddess Mystra, rebuilt from a mortal foundation, but inheriting the full portfolio and power of her predecessor, takes her place in the divine hierarchy. This new Mystra brings mortal perspective to godhood, remembers what it felt like to be powerless and afraid, understands the needs of mortal spellcasters in ways that older, more distant gods sometimes forgot. Siric's ascension is darker, more troubling, yet perhaps inevitable given the cosmic vacuum left by dead gods. Having claimed power and divine essence from multiple fallen deities through combat and the dark magic of Godsbane, Sirik forces his way into divinity through sheer accumulated power. He seizes portions of Bane's portfolio of tyranny, claims aspects of Baal's murder domain, and gathers fragments of Miakal's death portfolio. Though he will not hold complete dominion over death, the result is a new god of strife, murder, and deception. A deity born from ambition and bloodshed rather than from noble purpose. Lord Io permits this ascension, though whether as recognition of power gained or as cosmic necessity is debated by scholars. The portfolios Sirik claims require divine management, and perhaps the overgod judges that even a flawed god is better than allowing these cosmic forces to remain unmanaged. Or perhaps Sirik's very nature his embodiment of treachery and ambition, serves a necessary function in the cosmic balance, representing aspects of mortal existence that must have divine oversight. You feel unease ripple through the mortal world as people learn of Siric's ascension. Many who followed the hero's quest hoped that if mortals rose to godhood, they would be righteous figures who would usher in a new age of divine benevolence. Instead, one of the new gods is a former thief and assassin whose methods during the Avatar crisis were brutal and self-serving, who murdered his own companion in his hunger for power. Siric's temples begin appearing in cities associated with Bane's fallen church, attracting worshippers who value power and cunning over law and compassion. The fate of Kelemver remains more complex and uncertain. Killed by Siric during the final days of the crisis, the warrior's story does not end with simple death. The circumstances of his murder, performed with a god-killing weapon, while Kelemver himself carried transformative experiences and possibly fragments of divine essence from his curse-breaking and heroic deeds, create a situation where his spirit does not pass cleanly to whatever afterlife awaited him. Instead, something of Kelemver endures, connected to Siric through the murder, tied to the death portfolio that the new god of strife has partially claimed, but may not be suited to manage properly. This suggests possibilities for the future, though you cannot know with certainty what will come of Kelemver's death, and the incomplete nature of Siric's claim over the death domain. The cosmic order may not be fully settled, may require further adjustment as the new gods prove whether they can properly fulfill the responsibilities they have claimed. Other ascensions occur during this period of divine reorganization, though on smaller scales. Lesser heroes from the Avatar crisis, mortals who performed great deeds or demonstrated exceptional qualities, find themselves elevated to demigod status or welcomed into the service of established gods. The divine hierarchy that emerges from Lord Io's judgment is not identical to what existed before. Positions have shifted, power has been redistributed, and new deities have joined the pantheon, while others have been removed permanently. The gods who survive and return to their celestial domains do not emerge unchanged. Having walked among mortals for months, having experienced vulnerability, and witnessed the suffering their divine conflicts caused, many deities develop new perspectives on their responsibilities. Some become more engaged with their worshippers, more attentive to mortal needs. Torm, having defended Tantras successfully, and having been restored after sacrificing himself to stop Bane, returns to his celestial domain with enhanced reputation and expanded influence. His conduct during the Avatar crisis becomes the standard against which other gods' behavior is measured. Temple teachings point to Torm as example of how deities should comport themselves, protecting mortal followers rather than exploiting them, maintaining order rather than causing chaos, even when reduced to avatared form. Other gods who demonstrated virtue during the crisis similarly gained status and respect, while those who behaved poorly find their worship declining as mortals transfer allegiance to deities who better served during the time of testing. The return of the gods to their proper domains is not instantaneous restoration of pre-crisis conditions. You witness a gradual transition as divine power flows back into celestial realms, as gods reestablish their cosmic positions and rebuild connections with their mortal followers. Some portfolios require extensive repair work, having been neglected or damaged during the months of crisis. The domains of dead gods must be parceled out, absorbed by surviving deities, or claimed by ascending mortals who demonstrated capacity to manage them. The new rules established by Lord Io in the crisis's aftermath fundamentally change divine-mortal interaction. Gods are forbidden from manifesting in full avatar form on the material plane, except under the most extreme circumstances, and only with the overgod's permission. They must work primarily through visions, divine magic granted to clerics, and indirect influence rather than walking among mortals in physical form. This limitation is meant to prevent future crises, to ensure that divine conflicts remain in celestial realms rather than devastating mortal civilizations. Clerics find their relationships with their gods altered in subtle but important ways. The divine magic they channel remains reliable, restored to its pre-crisis functionality. But there is a new understanding that faith must be earned, that gods serve portfolios and worshippers rather than being served blindly. The trauma of watching gods bleed and die has broken some of the mystique of divinity, making mortal followers more questioning, more demanding of their deities. This shift toward more reciprocal divine-mortal relationships will characterize the religious landscape for generations. The political consequences ripple across Faerûn as the crisis ends. Nations that collapsed under divine conflicts must be rebuilt. Rulers who died or were deposed during the chaos must be replaced. Trade agreements, military alliances, and diplomatic relationships all need renegotiation in light of how different regions responded to the Avatar crisis. Some nations emerge stronger, having weathered the storm successfully. Tantras in particular gains prestige as the city where Bane fell, and where Torm demonstrated divine virtue. Others face decades of recovery from devastation that reduced cities to ruins and scattered populations as refugees. The Gentarim, once a powerful and feared organization united under Bane's dark authority, faces internal collapse and reformation. With Bane dead and Cyric ascending to claim portions of his portfolio, different factions argue over whether to serve the new god of strife or to pursue independent paths. Some former Banites transfer their allegiance to Cyric, seeing him as legitimate inheritor of their dead god's tyrannical legacy. Others abandon evil worship entirely, seeking redemption, or simply recognizing that the old order is gone beyond recovery. You stand in the aftermath, watching as normalcy slowly returns to a world permanently changed by divine crisis. The year is still 1358 Dale Reckoning, though the crisis lasted from early spring through late summer. Months that felt like lifetimes as mortals witnessed cosmic history unfolding in their streets. Magic works predictably again under the new Mystra's guidance. Prayers are answered reliably by gods restored to their celestial domains. The fundamental rules of reality have been restored and strengthened by Lord Io's judgment. But everyone knows that the world is not the same, that mortals have seen behind the divine curtain and cannot unsee what was revealed about the nature of godhood and cosmic power. The Avatar crisis has taught that gods can fail, can die, can be replaced by mortals who prove themselves worthy of divine responsibility. This knowledge changes everything about how people approach faith, how they understand their relationship with the divine, and how they see their own potential in a cosmos where even the ultimate powers are subject to judgment and consequence. Section 5. A Changed World. The sun rises over Faerûn on the first morning after the crisis truly ends, and you notice immediately that something fundamental has shifted in how the world feels. This is not imagination or trauma-induced perception. The weave, that invisible network of magical energy permeating all reality, has been permanently altered by the death and rebirth of Mystra, by months of wild magic storms, and by the cosmic restructuring that accompanied Lord Io's judgment. Magic will never function exactly as it did before the Avatar crisis, and every spellcaster across the continent must relearn their art in subtle but important ways. You visit a wizard's tower in Waterdeep, speaking with archmages who spent decades mastering the old patterns of the weave, and find them experimenting like apprentices with spells they have cast thousands of times. The fundamental principles remain unchanged. The basic structure of magical theory still holds true, but the details have shifted. Spells that once required specific gestures and precise verbal components now sometimes function with slight variations. The weave has developed new pathways, alternative routes through which magical energy can flow. And discovering these requires research and experimentation that will occupy the magical community for years. The new Mystra brings mortal perspective to divine management of magic. Having lived as Midnight, having struggled as a human spellcaster during the chaos of wild magic zones, she understands intimately what wizards and sorcerers need from their goddess. Her reforms to how the weave functions prioritize stability and accessibility, making the foundation of magic more reliable than it was even before the crisis. Lower-level spells become slightly easier to master, making magic more democratic and available to broader populations. Higher-level magic remains appropriately challenging, but the path to arcane mastery is clearer now, guided by a goddess who remembers what it felt like to climb that path as a mortal. These changes to the weave structure have profound implications for magical education and research. You witness the founding of new magical academies in cities that previously relied on apprenticeship systems or had no formal magical training at all. The post-crisis world recognizes that magic, being more accessible and stable than during the Avatar crisis, but also more widespread, requires systematic education to prevent abuse and accidents. Governments invest in magical infrastructure, creating positions for court wizards and establishing regulations for spell use in urban areas. The religious landscape of Faerûn undergoes equally dramatic transformation. The death of major deities and the rise of new gods creates a period of theological upheaval that touches every temple and shrine across the continent. You visit churches that must literally rewrite their sacred texts, updating doctrine to account for the destruction of deities they worshipped and the ascension of gods whose portfolios overlap or replace what came before. Priests who served Bane must decide whether to transfer allegiance to Cyric, who inherited portions of the Black Lord's portfolio, or to abandon evil worship entirely and seek redemption through service to other deities. The ascension of Cyric to godhood creates particular controversy and concern. You hear theological debates in temples and taverns, alike about what it means that a mortal thief and murderer could achieve divinity through ambition and stolen power rather than through righteous service or divine blessing. Some scholars argue this proves that godhood is merely accumulated power, that morality and cosmic responsibility are secondary to raw divine essence. Others insist that Lord Io permitted Cyric's ascension because the portfolios he claimed require management, that even a flawed god serves necessary cosmic function in maintaining balance between good and evil. Cyric's early actions as a deity reinforce concerns about his character and fitness for godhood. You learn of temples being established in his name that teach ruthlessness and deceit as virtues, that celebrate murder and betrayal as paths to power. His priests are often former assassins, thieves, and power seekers who see in Cyric a deity who validates their worst impulses. Yet Cyric also attracts sincere worshippers who admire his rise from mortal obscurity to divine power, who see his ascension as proof that determination and cunning can overcome any obstacle. The new god of strife proves unstable in ways that suggest his ascension may have been premature, or that the divine power he claimed is not well suited to his nature. Reports reach you of erratic divine commands, of Cyric's priests receiving contradictory visions, of the god himself displaying signs of madness or megalomania. This could imply that holding multiple portfolios torn from dead gods, combined with the corrupting influence of weapons like Godsbane, has damaged Cyric's sanity even as it elevated him to divinity. The long-term consequences of having such an unstable deity managing crucial cosmic portfolios will unfold over the years and decades following the crisis. The question of who will properly manage the domain of death remains unresolved in the immediate aftermath of the crisis. Cyric has claimed portions of Miakul's portfolio, particularly aspects related to the fear of death and the power of murder. But the fundamental cosmic responsibility of judging the dead and managing the passage between life and afterlife requires qualities that Cyric clearly lacks. This suggests that the divine hierarchy remains incomplete, that further changes may come as Lord Io, and the cosmic order recognize the need for proper stewardship of death. In the years following the time of troubles, you begin to hear rumors and reports that suggest Kelemver's story did not end with his murder at Cyric's hand. The circumstances of his death, the transformation he had undergone through breaking his curse, and the cosmic need for a compassionate god of death all point toward the possibility of his eventual resurrection and ascension. Though you cannot know with certainty what the future holds, the pattern suggests that just as Torm was restored for his righteous sacrifice, Kelemver may be destined to return and claim the death portfolio that Cyric is unfit to manage properly. This potential future development represents one of the Avatar Crisis's most profound lessons. The cosmic order is not static, not permanently fixed even after Lord Io's judgment. The divine hierarchy must serve the needs of mortals and the proper functioning of reality. And if gods fail to fulfill their responsibilities adequately, changes will occur. The time of troubles established precedent for divine replacement, for mortal ascension, and for ongoing evolution of the pantheon based on demonstrated virtue and capability rather than simple tradition. The regional devastation caused by divine conflicts during the Avatar Crisis leaves permanent scars on the landscape that become monuments to the crisis. You travel through areas that will forever bear the marks of battles between gods made flesh. In valleys where divine avatars clashed, the land remains twisted by residual power, growing strange plants or manifesting unusual weather patterns. Near Tantras, where Bane and Torm fell in mutual destruction before Torm's resurrection, the ground is scorched in patterns that refuse to grow over, physical evidence of divine death burned into the earth itself. Some of these scarred regions become pilgrimage sites. You encounter travelers journeying to locations where significant events of the Avatar Crisis occurred, seeking spiritual insight or simply wanting to witness places where cosmic history unfolded. The battlefield where Bane died attracts worshippers of Torm who come to celebrate their god's victory and sacrifice, to reflect on duty and the willingness to give everything for righteous cause. The sites where Mystra fell and where other gods met their fates draw seekers, hoping to understand the nature of divinity and mortality. Other devastated areas remain dangerous, uninhabitable zones where wild magic effects persist years after the crisis officially ended. These dead zones and wild magic regions become effectively permanent features of Faerûn's geography, areas that maps mark with warnings, and that travelers avoid unless absolutely necessary. Some adventurers and researchers brave these zones, seeking magical phenomena to study or hoping to find artifacts lost during the chaos. But casualties remain high among those foolish enough to underestimate lingering divine corruption. The economic recovery from the Avatar crisis takes decades. Trade routes that collapsed during the chaos must be reestablished, but merchants remain cautious, remembering too vividly how quickly prosperity turned to ruin when gods walked among mortals. You witness the gradual rebuilding of commercial networks, the slow restoration of confidence in magical transportation and communication, the patient reconstruction of markets and trade relationships. Cities that were devastated must be partially or completely rebuilt, requiring massive investments of labor and resources that strain regional economies. Some regions emerge from the crisis in stronger positions than they held before. Tantras, having successfully defended itself under Torm's protection, and having hosted the destruction of Bane, gains prestige and influence that transforms it from a moderate port city into a significant power on the Dragon Reach. The city attracts immigrants seeking opportunities in a place blessed by righteous divine protection and proven capable of withstanding even cosmic crisis. Tantras becomes a center of Torm's worship, with temples and shrines dedicated to duty and loyalty erected throughout the expanding city. Waterdeep, having weathered the crisis through a combination of strong government, defensive magic, and diplomatic skill in dealing with visiting divine avatars, solidifies its position as one of Faerûn's most important cities. The open lords who guided the city through the Avatar crisis earn historical recognition for their leadership during impossible circumstances. Waterdeep becomes a model for how mortal governments should respond to divine crisis, balancing respect for godly power with assertion of mortal authority and protection of civilian populations. Other regions suffer lasting decline from which they struggle to recover. Gentle Keep, power base of the fallen Bane and center of his earthly worship, faces internal collapse as different factions war for control in their god's absence. Though some former Banites transfer allegiance to Cyric, others abandon evil worship entirely or scatter to pursue individual ambitions. The Zhentarim organization fractures into competing cells, each claiming legitimate authority as Bane's true inheritors. This internal conflict weakens the reach and influence of what was once Faerûn's most feared evil organization. Though the Zhentarim will eventually reorganize under new leadership and adapt to the changed divine landscape. The impact on bardic tradition and historical record-keeping cannot be overstated. You encounter bards traveling the land, collecting stories and accounts of the Avatar crisis, trying to preserve accurate records of events that will shape understanding of this period for centuries. The challenge they face is immense, separating truth from exaggeration, confirming which divine encounters actually occurred versus which are fabrications or misidentifications. Many mortals claiming to have met gods during the crisis are lying or mistaken, having encountered powerful wizards or extraplanar beings rather than true divine avatars. The colleges of bards establish special projects dedicated to documenting the time of troubles, recognizing that this historical moment requires preservation beyond normal bardic methods. You visit libraries where scholars compile multiple accounts of the same events, comparing testimonies and searching for patterns that indicate truth. These efforts produce the first comprehensive histories of the Avatar crisis, texts that become foundational references for future generations studying this transformative period. The philosophical implications of mortals witnessing divine mortality inspire new schools of thought throughout Faerûn's academic and religious communities. You attend lectures and debates where scholars grapple with questions that the Avatar crisis made unavoidable. If gods can die, are they truly divine or merely very powerful beings? If mortals can ascend to godhood, what distinguishes gods from mortals beyond accumulated power? If divine authority requires cosmic approval from Lord Io, what is the nature of that higher authority? And should worship be directed toward the over-god rather than lesser deities? These theological and philosophical debates produce no consensus, but spark intellectual movements that will characterize the coming age. Some thinkers argue for reduced emphasis on worship and increased focus on mortal self-reliance, pointing out that during the Avatar crisis, mortals survived primarily through their own efforts rather than divine intervention. Others insist that the crisis proves the necessity of gods, showing that without proper divine management of cosmic portfolios like death and magic, reality itself begins to collapse into chaos. The very fact that Lord Io intervened to restore order suggests that the divine hierarchy serves essential function that mortals cannot fulfill alone. The artistic response to the Avatar crisis produces an explosion of creative work, attempting to process the trauma and transformation of this period. You encounter paintings, sculptures, epic poems, and theatrical productions depicting key moments of the crisis. Some artists focus on the horror and tragedy, creating works that memorialize mortal suffering and divine hubris. Others emphasize themes of heroism and transformation, celebrating the mortal heroes who rose to divine status and the gods who demonstrated virtue during their avatared existence. The musical compositions inspired by the time of troubles range from solemn funeral dirges mourning dead gods to triumphant anthems celebrating the crisis's resolution. You hear songs in taverns and concert halls that tell stories of Midnight's burden and transformation, Kelimver's curse-breaking and tragic death, Siric's dark ascension, and Torm's righteous sacrifice and resurrection. These musical narratives become part of Faerûn's cultural memory, ways that common people who did not experience events directly can understand and relate to this cosmic catastrophe. The long-term impact on divine worship practices shifts toward more reciprocal relationships between gods and mortals. Having seen deities vulnerable and desperate, mortal worshippers develop different attitudes toward prayer and devotion. Faith becomes less about blind obedience and more about partnership, with mortals expecting their gods to demonstrate virtue and fulfill responsibilities in exchange for worship and service. Gods who fail to meet these heightened expectations find their worship declining as mortals transfer allegiance to deities who better serve their needs and exemplify the qualities they claim to embody. This transformation in divine-mortal relationships leads to Reformation movements within established churches. You witness temple hierarchies being challenged by lay worshippers who demand more accountability and transparency in how clergy interpret divine will. Some churches split into Orthodox and Reform factions, with conservatives trying to maintain pre-crisis traditions, while progressives push for changes reflecting new understanding of divine nature. These religious conflicts occasionally turn violent, adding to the social instability of the post-crisis period, as different interpretations of how worship should function compete for dominance. The emergence of small religious movements dedicated to acknowledging Lord Io directly represents one of the more radical responses to the Avatar crisis. You encounter growing congregations that argue mortals should recognize the over-God's ultimate authority, though most stop short of actually worshipping Io, since he neither wants nor responds to such devotion. Traditional priesthoods view these movements with suspicion, but the philosophical appeal of focusing on ultimate cosmic authority attracts intellectuals and seekers who question conventional religious hierarchies. The Avatar crisis's impact on mortal heroes and adventurers who participated in events but did not achieve godhood manifests in various ways. Those who survived encounters with divine avatars or who contributed to the tablet's recovery find themselves celebrated as legends, their reputations enhanced by association with cosmic events. You meet veterans of the crisis in taverns and guild halls, listening to their stories of witnessing history, of fighting alongside or against gods made flesh, of experiencing magic and reality itself becoming unreliable. Some of these mortal heroes struggle with the aftermath, suffering what might be called survivor's affliction from having experienced events that transcended normal mortal comprehension. They report persistent dreams of divine battles, lingering anxiety about reality's stability, and difficulty readjusting to normal life after months of cosmic crisis. Temples and healing houses develop new treatments for these spiritual wounds, recognizing that the Avatar crisis damaged minds and souls as surely as it damaged landscapes. The legacy of the time of troubles extends into military doctrine and strategic planning across Faerûn. Nations recognize that divine intervention cannot be relied upon during crises, that mortals must develop capability to defend themselves and maintain order, even when gods are absent or compromised. You observe increased investment in non-magical military capabilities, in mundane fortifications, and conventional warfare techniques that do not depend on clerical support or magical enhancement. Armies train for scenarios where divine magic might fail, where wild magic might turn offensive spells into unpredictable hazards. The changes to planar cosmology and extraplanar travel resulting from the Avatar crisis create new challenges and opportunities for those who journey beyond the material plane. The barriers between planes were strained during the crisis, weakened by the cosmic disruption of gods being cast down from their domains. Some of these weaknesses persist, creating stable portals or thin places where planar boundaries are more permeable than before. You hear of explorers discovering new routes to the outer planes, of traders establishing commerce with extraplanar settlements, and of dangers from beyond infiltrating Faerûn through these weakened barriers. The outer planes themselves bear scars from the Avatar crisis. Divine domains that were temporarily abandoned when gods descended in Avatar form show signs of neglect or damage from that period. Some celestial and infernal powers took advantage of divine absence to expand their territories or assert independence from godly control. The restoration of gods to their proper domains required renegotiation of planar politics and reestablishment of boundaries that held before the crisis. This ongoing process of cosmic reorganization continues for years after the immediate crisis ends. The educational reforms inspired by the Avatar crisis extend beyond magical academies to general schooling about religion, history, and civic responsibility. You visit schools where children are taught not just to revere and obey gods, but to understand divine nature critically, to recognize that gods serve cosmic functions and bear responsibilities that they must fulfill properly. This represents a fundamental shift in how societies approach religious education, moving from unquestioning faith toward informed devotion, based on understanding of divine roles and limitations. The time of troubles becomes mandatory subject matter in bardic colleges and universities across Faerûn. Future generations must understand how close civilization came to complete collapse, how fragile the cosmic order proved to be, and how mortal action became decisive when divine authority faltered. The lessons drawn from this period emphasize mortal agency, the importance of stable government independent of divine support, and the need for societies to develop resilience against cosmic disruption. As years pass and the immediate crisis fades into history, you watch as the Avatar Crisis's legacy becomes woven into the fundamental character of Faerûn civilization. The people who lived through those months of chaos and terror carry memories that shape their approaches to faith, magic, government, and daily life. Their children grow up hearing stories of when gods walked among mortals and died on city streets, when reality itself became unreliable, and when mortal heroes rose to claim divine thrones. The new gods who rose during the crisis mature into their roles, developing followings and establishing their positions in the divine hierarchy. Cyric, despite his controversial origins and growing instability, proves to be an enduring, if troublesome, deity whose portfolios of strife, murder, and deception fulfill necessary cosmic functions, even if his management of them is questionable. His worship never becomes mainstream or respectable, but it persists in shadows and among those who value power over virtue, who see in the mad god a reflection of their own ambitions and ruthlessness. The new Mystra's democratic approach to magic enables a magical renaissance as more people gain access to arcane learning. And as the Weave's improved stability makes spellcasting more reliable than ever before, this democratization of magic has profound social implications, shifting power dynamics between magical and non-magical populations, creating new opportunities for those with talent regardless of birth or wealth, and establishing magic as more integrated into daily life, rather than being the exclusive domain of isolated wizards in towers. The question of death's proper management suggests that changes yet to come may bring further transformation to the divine hierarchy. Based on what you observe in the years following the crisis, the cosmic need for compassionate judgment of the dead and fair management of the afterlife remains inadequately addressed by Cyric's chaotic stewardship. This implies that Lord Io's work in restructuring the pantheon may not be complete, that the Avatar crisis set in motion changes that will continue unfolding as the divine order evolves to meet cosmic necessities. You stand in the present, looking back on the Avatar crisis from the perspective of years, and recognize that Faerûn emerged fundamentally transformed. The relationship between gods and mortals will never return to what it was before 1358 Dale Reckoning. Mortals have seen too much, understand too clearly that gods are not perfectly omnipotent beings beyond challenge or question, that divinity comes with responsibility, and that failure to fulfill divine duties brings cosmic consequences. This knowledge brings both comfort and concern, reducing divine mystique while raising important questions about the nature of cosmic order and authority. The physical scars on the landscape serve as permanent reminders that divine power, when brought to earth and unleashed without restraint, causes devastation that transcends mortal warfare. Wild magic zones and blasted battlefields remain as warnings against cosmic hubris, against the pride and neglect that led gods to fail their responsibilities, until Lord Io imposed catastrophic correction. The Avatar crisis teaches that change, even cosmic change, remains possible. Divine hierarchies that seemed eternal proved mutable. Gods who appeared invincible demonstrated vulnerability. Mortals who seemed insignificant rose to divine status. These lessons inspire hope in some quarters, fear in others. Reformers see proof that even the most established systems can be transformed when circumstances demand it. Conservatives point to the suffering caused by cosmic disruption as warning against seeking change, rather than accepting traditional order. And as you reflect on everything that happened during those terrible months when the gods fell to earth, you understand that the time of troubles represents more than historical event or theological crisis. It stands as fundamental disruption in how reality itself functions in Faerûn, a pivot point after which nothing could ever be quite the same. The world survived, civilization endured, and the cosmic order was restored. But the restoration brought transformation rather than mere return to previous conditions. The legacy of the Avatar crisis will echo through centuries to come, shaping religious practice, magical theory, military strategy, artistic expression, and philosophical thought for generations unborn. Those who lived through it carry scars, both visible and invisible. Memories of impossible events that redefined what mortals understood about gods, power, and their own place in cosmic order. And those who come after, who study this period in historical texts and bardic tales, will grapple with its implications and meanings, seeking to understand how the night when divine power became mortal changed everything forever. The time of troubles proved that the relationship between mortals and gods is not fixed by ancient precedent, but evolves based on demonstrated virtue, fulfilled responsibility, and cosmic necessity. The gods now know they serve at Lord Io's pleasure, and can be cast down or destroyed if they fail their duties. Mortals know they possess potential for greatness that extends even to claiming divine thrones if they prove worthy through their actions and character. And the cosmic order itself has been revealed as dynamic rather than static, capable of radical transformation when the old ways fail to serve their essential purposes. If you found this journey through one of the most catastrophic and transformative periods in Faerûn's history compelling, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep explorations of lore, history, and the stories that shape the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Thank you for joining me through this telling of the time of troubles, and may your own adventures, whether at the gaming table or in imagination, be filled with the kind of epic scope and profound meaning that characterized this cosmic crisis.